Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. Richard Feynman said, "It doesn't matter how beautiful your theory is. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If it doesn't agree with experiment, it's wrong." 10 years ago, the United States had a very warm year, which was blamed by the press on global warming. 2012 was widely described as the hottest and most extreme year on record in the United States. Hurricane Sandy hit New Jersey and New York the week before the election. The press blamed the hurricane on climate change and may have saved the election for Barack Obama. Now let's take a look at what's happened to the climate of the United States over the past 10 years. For the first 5 months of this year, 2022 has been the ninth coldest on record in the U.S. Nighttime temperatures so far this year have been fifth coldest on record. Afternoon temperatures have been about 2 degrees below average. The number of warm days in the United States above 60 degrees Fahrenheit so far this year has been second lowest on record. And the number of cold nights below 20 degrees Fahrenheit has been highest on record so far this year. This may change some over the next few days as more data from May becomes available. Like the previous 5 months, June is shaping up to be another cold month. Here in Cheyenne, Wyoming, it still feels like winter. A lot of the trees haven't leafed out yet as of June 1st. The forecasts from the U.S. government have been disastrously wrong. They predicted that January through March 2022 was going to be very warm in most of the country. They also predicted that February through April was going to be very warm in most of the U.S. And the same thing for March through May. These climate modelers are consistently wrong over periods of 3 months, but they claim to be extremely accurate 100 years from now. And now they're predicting that the summer is going to be blazing hot in most of the United States. They can't predict the future, and they also don't understand the past. 10 years ago, the New York Times claimed that 2012 was by far the hottest year on record in the U.S. Let's take a look at the accuracy of that claim. Average afternoon temperatures in the U.S. during 2012 were third highest after 1934 and 1921. The average mean temperature during 2012 was about the same as 1921 and a little bit higher than 1931 and 1934. The reason that 2012 had a very high average temperature is because the winter and spring were quite warm. But as far as the number of hot days went, above 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius, 2012 wasn't even in the top 20. The last really hot summer in the United States occurred in 1988 when carbon dioxide levels were still below 350 parts per million. The hottest summers in the United States occurred prior to the year 1960. If we plot the frequency of hot days versus the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we can see that as the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has increased, the likelihood of hot weather has decreased. This relationship pretty much destroys the basis of climate alarmism. And not only has the frequency of hot days decreased as CO2 has increased, but so has the aerial coverage of hot weather. In 1931, 93% of the United States reached 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius sometime during the year. But that number has plummeted as carbon dioxide levels have increased in the atmosphere. There's no evidence that increase in carbon dioxide levels is causing more hot weather in the U.S. In fact, the relationship is quite the opposite. The global warming theory is failing for hot temperatures, and it's also failing for sea ice. Arctic sea ice extent is currently just below the 1981 to 2010 median. There's no evidence to support the idea that the ice is disappearing. Ice doesn't lie, but government climate scientists do. Today's global temperature anomaly is 0.2 degrees above the 1979 to 2000 average. This has been fairly typical for the year. Claims that the Earth is overheating are not supported by actual data. And the widely made claims that Greenland is melting down also don't have any factual basis. This graph shows the surface mass balance of the Greenland ice sheet over the last 6 years. The surface mass balance is the difference between the amount of snow which falls on the Greenland ice sheet every year and the amount which melts off the surface. Over the past 6 years, the surface mass balance of Greenland has been well above average. Only 1 year out of the last six, 2019, was significantly below average. Claims that Greenland is melting down simply are not true. The theory behind climate alarmism is not supported by experimental data. There's nothing beautiful or smart about the theories behind climate alarmism. These people's theories are wrong, and they're doing a lot of damage. Millions of people around the world face starvation due to disastrously poor energy policies based on junk climate science. Many of the people behind the scam imagine that they are good people, but the actual data shows the opposite. Richard Feynman said, "Science is the belief in the ignorance of the experts." And that has never been more true than it is now. There's nothing beautiful or smart about climate junk science. The experimental data shows that their theories are wrong. There's no better experiment than thousands of years of historical records, which is why Michael Mann has worked so hard to corrupt them. Toto's been barking about this academic madness for the past 14 years. You can visit him, Kyrie, and Caesar on the web at realclimatescience.com.